Spoiler warning. The following discussion will contain spoilers. We recommend checking out the movie first, then coming back to hang with us. But if you don't care about that, glad to have you here.
Oh, how are you, little boy?
Orange stripe, center pocket.
No.
Ooh, that did not sound right.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin.
And I'm John.
And we are The Real Movie Guys. It's December, so you know what that means. Real Christmas. Real Christmas is a special event where we take a look at all your favorite holiday movies. On today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Home Sweet Home Alone. A married couple tries to steal back a valuable heirloom from a troublesome kid. John, they brought us back. Just when I thought we were done. We went through a whole year of Home Alone. Through the best, through the worst. They brought us back again.
They watched our reviews and they said, we need to make more Home Alone.
2021, got a new movie. Home Sweet Home Alone. I was disappointed again, John. I don't know what to tell you. I guess maybe I thought there was going to be something here, but overall, this movie didn't do it for me.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was another one that seemed to bite the dust. I felt like they didn't try on this one.
I want to disagree a little bit with you because there is some differences with this movie. Typically, Home Alone was about Kevin McCallister or a different kid. In this kid, we have a different kid, Max Mercer. In Home Alone, the child is always portrayed as the protagonist. This movie tried something a little different, and that's like my really big positive I actually have with this movie. The burglars, played by Rob Delaney and Ellie Kemper, who are fantastic in this movie. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. They're the good guys in this movie. Max Mercer, played by Archie Yates, he's actually the bad guy. And I think that's kind of an interesting flip-flop. Yes, everything getting to the plot and the execution of the plot is terrible, but I think there's a shred of a good idea here.
The premise of the whole thing sounds interesting, but then the way that they do it, it's just, especially like the child character too, I really couldn't get into him.
But he's the bad guy in this situation. So in the beginning, Ellie Kemper, Rob Delaney, they're selling their house. This whole movie really is about those two characters, the two adult characters. We really don't spend that much time with Max Mercer and the whole Home Alone situation, and I think is a detriment to this movie as well. But focusing on the adult characters does give us something new and refreshing. They have an open house. Max Mercer and his mom, they come to the open house because he has to use the bathroom. He gets into shenanigans with the adults, and they think he steals a doll from them, this really expensive doll that's apparently worth $200,000, something like that. Whatever it is, it's a lot of money. It's worth a lot of money. Okay, it's worth a lot of money. They think he steals it, and they go back to get it, and they realize the family's leaving, and Rob Delaney has an idea where he's like, oh, I'm gonna break into the house because no one's home. They just want their doll back, and this kid is so unlikable. From the minute we meet Max Mercer, he is incredibly unlikable. When they even try to make you like him, I just couldn't do it because, again, I keep thinking about all the snarky comments he had, just his attitude in general. Granted, Kevin McCallister was not a likable character whatsoever. Macaulay Culkin's not likable really in that movie, but he has a little bit of a charm to him. So even though he's being snarky, he's being like arrogant, you can kind of forgive it because there's a little bit of an underlying charm. I don't know if Archie Yates just wasn't able to pull that out effectively. It didn't work for me whatsoever. I couldn't sympathize with any of his moments in the movie.
No, and it seemed like it was very weird. They always have it where the main person in the movie, you feel bad for him because like his family is terrible and his family's the worst. And this one just seemed like his family doesn't seem to be that bad. They just seem like they're very confused. Almost like everybody in this movie is taking some like dumb pills or something because they're all out of this world, like extremely dumb. Like the things that they do and say, even when the brother comes to stay with them with the kids and everything, they come at like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. All of a sudden he starts throwing snowballs at them. You start like to wonder like this is just the strangest thing that we could have started with.
But you relate to that. That's like a playful brother kind of thing. I'm not going to say that's incredibly stupid, but I will say there is like a dip in reality like midway through this movie, especially when the burglary starts. Ellie Kemper, Rob Delaney, they're pretty competent people for the most part, and especially in the beginning of the movie. They're not dumb criminals or dumb by any means. They're just trying to sell their house. Then all of a sudden, when they decide they have to break into a house, they're just stupid for no reason whatsoever. Like instead of going through the front door, they have to convolutedly go over the back wall. Things like that, just making like really bad decisions for no reason. In the original Home Alone, it kind of made sense what they were doing. This wasn't the same thing. They were just doing it to be stupid. There was no reason why action A A was affecting action B throughout the entire movie.
They try to make them two seem like very smart people in the beginning. One's a teacher, the one's a genius on the computers, and then all of a sudden they get to the house and they can't even go up the driveway. And even like with this movie too, how he sets up like the house and everything. In this one, I feel like he set up the house so like plain and not creative.
Part of that problem is they're trying to emulate so much of the original Home Alone unsuccessfully because there's none of the other buildup that made the other Home Alone movies good. We don't spend any time with Archie Yates as Max Mercer. Like in the original, we understand Kevin is one of the youngest siblings and he's kind of ousted by the rest of his family and annoyed. And you understand like when he gets home alone, like how much of a joy it is. He's just super excited. Like, I'm home alone. I got my wish. I got to be away from my family. This one's kind of like, whatever. I'm home alone. I'm gonna do my thing. Gonna have a random modernized Scarface sniffing candy scene. Not sure why that was in this movie, but okay. There's a lot of things wrong just because we don't have any connection to this kid. We don't understand why. When it comes to Rob Delaney and Ellie Kemper, we do. They steal the show a lot of this movie. I think personally, if you had them two in another movie that wasn't Home Alone, if you made like another Christmas movie with just them, I think it would have been pretty good because a lot of their back and forth was actually really funny and relatable. As you know, maybe it's just because we're older to some extent, so maybe that's why I'm maybe seeing it a little bit differently. But I thought their back and forth was pretty good. And then when you have Timothy Simmons, who plays Hunter, which is Rob Delaney's brother, he's great too. They have a great back and forth. He's such a jerk. He really brings that annoyance as the family coming to visit. And the back and forth actions, I think there's a good movie there. The problem is you slip in all this Home Alone stuff and it just doesn't fuse together cohesively to make this interesting for me.
I thought that their little subtle nods back to the old Home Alone, to the first Home Alone.
Right.
With like Buzz being the cop.
Let's talk about that real quick. So Buzz is in this movie. He plays a police officer, and the house that the adults are trying to break into is actually provided security by McCallister Alarms, which is owned by Kevin McCallister. We don't see Kevin McCallister, which is a shame. You know, a little Macaulay Culkin appearance I think could have been kind of fun. The whole joke going in this movie is when the kid tries to call 911 to try and get help and the alarm goes off, he thinks it's actually Kevin from the original movies. He calls once a year and he tries to play this prank that someone's breaking into a home alone. It happened to him when we were kids. It's just annoying. I think that was kind of funny. I thought bringing back the original Buzz actor, who I wasn't sure if it was him at first, but when I saw his facial expressions, I'm like, oh, that's Buzz. He's doing the exact same shtick he did from the original. And if that was the only reference to the original Home Alone, I think that would have been fine. But because they do all these awkward dialogue exchanges and it's just so cold delivery, when Max goes like, it's my house, I have to protect it. Like, all right, you said the same line from the original movie. Oh, you draw instructions on the wall like the original movie. Stuff like that, you've seen it done better. They try to play on your nostalgia to make you think this is equal or superior in some way to the original. The best quote I can give you, and I think this sums up the entire movie, in my opinion, the entire franchise in a lot of ways, and it's really awkward. 26 minutes in, Timothy Simmons says the line,
I don't know why they were always trying to remake the classics. Never as good as the originals.
You just said that in this movie. Wow. That's brazen.
Yeah, and also I thought like throughout the whole movie, I thought it was going to be like a comedy. This one didn't seem to do it as funny.
I don't know. I thought that their chemistry was good. I thought they were funny. I laughed a lot more at their exchanges. They had an awkward joke towards the beginning of the movie. They're talking about like what'll happen if they get arrested or something like that. And like,
yes, that's what OJ got in trouble for. The second time.
I was like, what? What kind of joke is this? Disney's putting this out? I thought maybe there was a chance here. And again, I appreciate the angle change. I think there was a good idea there, but the execution just never gets there. It's very sloppy, very confusing. If you're a kid even watching this movie, you're just like, why don't they just communicate? And the whole like, oh, it's a misunderstanding the whole time. It doesn't really work for me. And once we get to the climax of this film too, you know, they realize there was a misunderstanding. The doll was stolen by the kleptomaniac nephew for whatever reason. I don't know why that kid ended up being like a kleptomaniac stealing everything. They tried to make you sympathize with Max and there was just no time. I didn't really care. They brought this kid into the house like, oh, look how lovely this boy is. This little Harry Potter kid, which I don't know if that's like a rude comment to say to a person that's English because they call him Harry Potter kid a couple times in this movie with his accent. But back onto that whole thing, I just didn't care about him. Even his mother, played by Aisling B., she annoyed me. They tried to recreate the whole Kevin McCallister's mom scene at the airport where she's trying to fly home to see him. And it was so soulless. And she just came across as nasty. And I really didn't care if she got back to her son. You know, I really didn't. Like Kevin McCallister's mom, at least you were the whole time like, oh, you know, I feel bad for her. She really genuinely feels upset. She had this big fight with her son. She's trying to get home. This movie just doesn't do it. It's a pale imitation. I wish I had something positive to come out and say to you. Because I think Archie Yates, he was in JoJo's Rabbit, which we reviewed here on the channel previously. I think he's a good actor. I think he does have something ahead of him. This just isn't the movie. Sorry, kid. You made a mistake. I think at this point, that brings us to our final scores. I'm going to give Home Sweet Home Alone a D-.
Sick of this bullshit! We don't have to tell Santa about that, right, Gooby?
It's not an F. It's not the worst Home Alone I've seen in the franchise. That's for sure. We've seen some pretty bad things. I think Home Alone 4, that was probably the worst one I've seen. I had an okay time. Some of the jokes made me laugh. The kid was annoying. I'll forget this movie. You know, I think I'm so scarred by the Home Alone franchise. It comes to a point where it's just like reliving trauma over and over again. I'll never turn this on again. It's never going to make me turn off 1, 2, hell, even 3 I'll watch again versus this one. Again, they were brazen enough to say, don't remake the classics. You shouldn't even try. Yeah, please don't try anymore. I think we've had enough, guys. John, where do you stand with this film?
I'll give it a D-.
Maybe the universe is trying to tell us something, you know? I mean, maybe we should just cut our losses.
Like, you pretty much just hit the nail on the head, too. It is not a movie I will ever watch again. It's almost like they just made it just to try to get more views. And, you know, that's one thing a lot of companies try to do now is just try to make money the simplest ways of putting a name on something, and then that sells it. And I feel like this movie was one of those where it could have been okay, but it just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, just trying to capitalize on the Home Alone name brand. Doesn't work, guys. And unless you've got something new to bring to the table, I don't know what you're going to do. Maybe if you made this PG-13 and really committed to the fact that the kid was the villain in the movie and made him even nastier and made the parents more sympathetic even more, maybe you could have had something here. You could have done something different, but you know Disney, they don't care. They see Home Alone, they own it now. They're just going to flush it down the toilet even more and say, hey, let's make some money and put it on our streaming service. But I think the rest of the holiday season, we do have some good stuff in store for you. Real Christmas continues on. We'll see you next time, guys.
See ya!
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.